Welcome back to the Roaring Peacock podcast. We are Leeds United supporters. Sign some bloody players already! It's the transfer special. I'll stop shouting like a madman now. My name's Adonis, and you know me as at the Adelites on Twitter. It's very good. Hello from me, joining us to discuss all the players that we need and all the time that we don't have to buy them. At Barney, LUFC 21. Barnes?
Aye, aye.
Barney from the internet. And Machiavelli, the Prince of Darkness himself. Ewan Metcalf. Ewan!
Yeah, you're all right, everybody.
Ewan's been regaling us with some Smiths. Singing Smith songs. You going to do it now?
Yeah, if you want. I dreamt about you last night, and I fell out of bed twice. You can pin and mount me like a butterfly. Oh, now take me to the haven of your bed. What's something that you never said? 2 lumps, please. You're the business, but so am I. Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
What a start. I'm off now. See you later.
Watch those subscribers roll in.
Yeah.
Right. Bit of a meltdown with transfers. Everybody's worried. Barney, I know you've got strong feelings about it. Should we ask Ewan first? Ewan, first thoughts.
They better let me go first, because that might be show over once Barney gets on it. 40-minute ramble. I wish I was more like Barney and a bit more positive and have belief, but I am a cynic and probably always wish we could do a little bit better and be a bit more ambitious. But ultimately, there's no point in stressing about it. It is what it is. The January transfer window is a mess anyway. It's not great. You don't tend to pick up good players for decent money. We've never done well in it, have we? I mean, when was the last great January transfer we did? Was Yeboah January transfer window signing? I believe it was. But, you know, what's his name? The guy we bought last year that we're now owing 20 million quid for never having played.
Big Kev.
Big Kev. There's a catalogue of... that's my dad, that Big Kev.
Lee Chapman was a good one.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Signed my dad, Big Kev, for 20 mil and probably done better than Big Kev Augustine. But, yeah, listen, it is what it is. I'm sure people are working hard behind the scenes to try and make things happen. It's not happening. I do get frustrated at this one target. You know, we should have a multiple of targets where we kind of have ambitions to bring them in. I'm not massively convinced by the policy that we have, but that's driven by Bielsa, who we trust and have faith in, so you can't have one and not the other. I sometimes think the wrong emphasis we have as well. So, like going after a sort of energetic, attacking, goal-scoring midfielder. We need a striker. You know, if Bamford doesn't come back, or I think we've needed a replacement striker for quite a long time and haven't done it. Hence why we brought in Augustine. But you know, if you're going to have this policy that Kinnear talked about in the programme notes, that we've got better youngsters, well, fucking play them then. And give them the game time and stop playing James up front and all that nonsense. So there is frustrations, but ultimately it is what it is. I'm not worried about the lack of incomings. I'm worried about the lack of clarity in what our policy and what our strategy is at the current moment in time, particularly from Kinnear.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll let Barney fire on.
Barney! Transfers.
Where do we start? Like Ewan says, there's no point getting stressed about it. Why? The amount of stuff over the last couple of weeks on Twitter, and I know Twitter is not real life, but the amount of people tearing their hair out because we've not signed someone, and everyone's saying, well, look at what Villa have done, look what other clubs have done. They have a completely different policy of how they want to sign players. Villa have 2 extra seasons more in the Premier League, and the money is ridiculous. They've had £100 million transfer for selling Grealish, so it's a little bit different there as well. And I think, from my point of view, is that if all the injuries, if we didn't have as many injuries now, if we said 3 or 4 injuries currently, would we be as stressed with transfer window, or would it be the same story? And everyone seems to build up the transfer window all the time, and I just think that it's tiring. It's tiring. And the thing is, though, it's just rumours. All we're seeing is from journalists is just rumours. We don't know what's going on behind the scene. We don't, and I don't think we need to stress about it so much. Like it's the be and end all of getting a player in. Because if that player comes in, it might not even be the player that ended up being. So,
yeah. Well, if you look at Everton, they've spent what, like 500 million pounds the last few seasons, and look at where it's got them. Absolutely nowhere. So yeah, there's a few things in there. It's like, firstly, buying a player isn't like going down the shop and getting a sausage roll. It's more like you go to the shop, but they don't let you in, and then okay, you can get a foot in the door, but they don't want to sell you that sausage roll. What, £5? No, yeah, no. What? Well, can we negotiate? You know, eight quid? No, don't want to sell you that sausage roll. We need it.
It sounded like a Barney analogy. This. Shining dogs in a minute.
So it's difficult, isn't it? Lots of people complaining. That's fine. I think it's totally fine to express your opinion. Maybe they're right. Maybe we do need to sign some players. But for all the complaints that I've seen, I don't think I've seen one person say that we need to sign a backup goalkeeper. And that's, honestly, I think that's the most important thing we need to do.
It's kind of what I alluded to, though. It's the where's the focus? You know, they obsess about this. You know, you could throw James in there as being another January nightmare. You know, where you have the desire, obsession almost with one player that led us to that absolute mess around that January with Swansea and with James. And you know, people can argue rightly or wrongly that he's still obsessed with him and he's brought him in and now he's playing him regardless of whether it's the right place to play him, whether he's in form or not. So it's a really tough one. Massive. But yeah, it's a really, I think, listen, what you've got to say is football fans are partisan and passionate, and I think that people are sounding off. They're worried, you know, that we've lost to a team who've not won a game, hardly won a game all season. Certainly not away from home. We were poor. They looked like they wanted it more. I think that people are panicking and worrying, and that's exactly the way you don't go into the transfer market, is with panic and worry, and let's try and plug gaps and so on, or compete with what Villa and Everton and Newcastle are doing. I mean, if you look at Newcastle's business, to be honest, they have all that money, and they were singing it on Saturday. You bought Chris Wood. They're after that Burn from Brighton now, and you know, Trippier, and I'm not inspired by that. I'm not jealous of those signings one bit. So you just let it pan out and see where we end. I always say it. Where we end up at the end of the season will dictate whether these things were right or wrong, and we might get it wrong. There's high risk. You wrote a brilliant piece, by the way, Donny, this week about risk and reward, and it's not changed since Bielsa's been here. So why would we be shocked?
Yeah, exactly. This is something else I wanted to highlight as well. So I saw this on Twitter today. James Gill, at jgill1986, and he's just saying that highest net spend by Premier League clubs since July 2020. You've got Arsenal, 180 mil. Of course, they bought Ben White. He would have been a great signing. But we got Llorente and Koch, which I think was value for money. 169 million from Chelsea. Of course, 100 million on Lukaku. 156 million from Scum. God knows who they've bought, but pissed all that up the wall, haven't they?
None of them have played yet, anyway.
They're all on the bench. Sancho in it, Sancho there. And then Leeds, fourth biggest spenders in the Premier League. I think sixth biggest spenders in the world. 149 million quid.
Wow.
So you can't say that they haven't invested, that's for sure.
And this is the thing, they're saying that we keep doing things on the cheap. We're getting 2 or 3 quality players in at most transfer windows. And also, we do have a plan of saying we're going to, some of the youth is going to come through. So not all the youth is going to come through, that's fine. People need to understand that every single player in the under-23s will not play for Leeds United first team. But it's about building that foundation in the under-23s. Then you might sell them on to a Championship club, a League One club, make a bit of money on them and then with sell-on fees. So that's where the business is as well. That's where you're going to make your money to invest in the first team as well. And I think it seems like, again, it's very much everyone's an expert about transfer window and what an actual director of football is, the director of footballer is. And it's really frustrating when, oh, well, look at them. Like, we should be in for that player. There's that player that we looked at and they're apparently volunteering for him. But you don't know what his weekly wages are. We can't compete with Frotina, who's playing in Europe, can we? So just need to have a bit of perspective about what we can afford with our second season in the Premier League after 16 years out of the league as well. It's changed a hell of a lot since we were last in it.
And no income, significant income last year because of COVID. So there's been no gain, with the whole revenue stream will be down because of that. So there's not that kind of money knocking about. And mentioned Augustine already, that's floated about 20 million, potentially 20 million loss on play we'll never see. There's a lot of things that are factors in what's going on. And to try and be black and white about it on a social media platform with 140 characters or whatever, I just think it never across. We sort of tried to stay out of it a lot and not get involved in arguments about it or necessarily even put my opinion across it. I said it before, I'm from a different generation where you didn't know players until they bloody arrived and they were signing the contracts, in the Yorkshire Evening Post. This microscope on everything now through social media is just crazy. And you weren't looking at other people's players. Suddenly you got a player you'd never heard of, or a player you'd not had your eye on necessarily. It's become a real big thing, particularly with these, FIFA packs and Football Manager and all that, where everybody's a football manager now and wants to profess on which players we should be bringing in. I ain't got a clue, to be honest. Bielsa and others will have far more idea than me. Just rock up to the job.
Yeah, signings used to be very different, didn't they? Certainly, like in the 80s, there was only like a few really big signings. But I think I remember like Brolin was the first kind of, like transfer fever kind of signing that our club made. Like, oh, we're going to get this like superstar from Europe. And see how bad that went. Even Yeboah he wasn't like Brolin. Brolin had come off the back of that really good World Cup, I think. So yeah, it's just I just think like it's so pot luck whether a signing works or it doesn't work, whether they settle into the club or not, whether they work well and integrate in the team and in the local community or not. You saw Saiz, for example, like his he didn't work out in his private life with his family, moving to England, and other than that, he was like, and the spitting, of course. He was a great player and exactly the kind of player that we'd need right now in that sort of number 10 role. So even something like that's completely out of your control, which is a private life, can sort of stop a transfer working, and it's such a big risk, especially when we could go down, for example, and we've all seen the problems that you get when you spend too much and then you get relegated.
We think we'd have learned, wouldn't you?
You'd hope so. Okay, so getting around to your chat then. Derek Moore says, evening chaps. Evening, Derek. January window is a shit show so far. Doubt we'll get anybody. That's the spirit. Paul Longboy, evening. 8 Ball Alley, evening all. I'm not watching Judas Priest Killing Machine to watch this. And I get here to hear the Smiths. The Smiths, for God's sake. If you're taking requests, how about a bit of Judas Priest next? There you go, Ewan.
Go wash your hair, mate.
Matty Ingham, wow, I misread this as Adam Johnson to Leeds. And Nora says, just Googled Adam Johnson.
Don't do that. Have the house, we knock on the door in a minute.
8 Ball Alley referring to the hot dog incident. I'm never going to Austria. The butchers are harsh. Colin Brooks said, "Evening, gents from Frinton on Sea." That is, I believe, Colin.
Beautiful.
And Nora saying, "Didn't need to know any of that. Not sure what she's referring to, but I'm guessing just the podcast in general." Nova, evening, everyone. And Colin Brooks, the less you hear about when we want the better in what? When we want the better, in my view. Sorry, Colin. I've either butchered it or you have.
You had a stroke, Adonis.
Right then. Newcastle. Tell me about it.
Oh.
Who we won?
First, I have to think about one. Can I get away with it?
I don't know. I really do not know how we lost that game. I really do not know. First half, it should have been finished. We should have been 2 or 3-0 up. Second half, we just seemed to lose the shape. But Newcastle, they were absolutely pathetic, falling over every other minute. I mean, within the first 12 minutes, we were already on the floor. And I said on Twitter the other day, I said, if you're happy with a coach that's going to come out and play Leeds United and just shithouse all the way through a game, you're not going to enjoy that football match. You're not going to enjoy it. And Newcastle fans were saying, "Oh, cry more" and stuff like that. You know, the usual Twitter banter. But honestly, they were awful. They were worse than Burnley when Burnley came over. The football they played, they didn't want to play football. They just hoofed it all the time. They just were not interested to play us. They were just not interested in playing us whatsoever.
I mean, it worked though, didn't it? I mean, if they stay up, I think they'll enjoy it.
Yeah, Newcastle.
The thing is, though, it worked by one mistake or a multiple of mistakes.
Yeah.
And the fallout when we lost and everyone was blaming Roberts. Yeah, he shouldn't have done those two silly. One was a pass, one was actually trying to get past the player, but it wasn't just his fault. The tracking back from our players was ridiculous. There was no intensity whatsoever from that. And why Llorente did that challenge in the first place was beyond me. The player was going nowhere as well.
Yeah.
It was a multitude of mistakes for the goal, but that's all that they hardly threatened throughout the game, to be honest.
Yeah, but to clarify, because Nora's saying that you're defending Roberts again. You're not defending Roberts, are you?
Roberts is not the answer. I do. He's not the answer.
Let's clarify that.
And it was quite condemning when he was coming on before Joffrey. The whole of the crowd were like, "For fuck's sake, you're joking."
Yeah.
And it must be awful for Roberts to come on, not getting a cheer from his home crowd, thinking that this is going to make the difference. And he's not the answer, no. But I do think he is a good footballer, but not for Leeds and for the Premier League, unfortunately.
Right, League One.
Champion. Yeah. I do think if he plied his trade properly in the Championship and start and reset himself, he could become a Premier League footballer again. But at the moment, in the system we play, I think you need to be clever. You need to have a footballing brain as well. And I don't think Roberts is that player that has a footballing brain. He's clever. He's technically clever, and he's good with the ball sometimes. But his decision making it's not right. And at this level, you're just going to crash and burn, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's weird that Bielsa can't see that.
Yeah, I said that. How he's still being persistent with. I don't want to dig him out because I've dug him out for about 2 years now. He's finally coming around to my way of thinking, but the fact that he's still persisted with when he makes so many mistakes and doesn't tend to track back or work back to try and win the ball back when he does. I mean, James lost the ball in the first half, and then he made the tackle on the edge of the box. For all his sins, he's
so good.
And Roberts loses the ball so many times, and then sort of has a bit of a sulk and doesn't bother going back again. And that kind of unforgivable in that system, isn't it? And particularly for Bielsa, how he is, he's got to have a sex tape on him. It's as simple as that. He would just not get game time or any kind of. I think Barney summed it up with regards to Roberts and that substitution. The whole crowd went flat. It was quite a good atmosphere on Saturday, and the minute that people saw Joffrey warming up, then Tyler come on before him. did audibly and visibly, the crowd kind of went a bit flat, and probably Newcastle picked up on that, and they raised the game a little bit for 10 minutes, and that was it, wasn't it? That was enough.
Yeah, that's what I was saying in the WhatsApp group. Is that that game was so finely poised.
Yeah,
it was back and forth like a basketball match. It really was, like more than any other game this season, because we play very direct, very attacking, and obviously they do as well. That's basically their whole game plan, is to counter-attack. And anything that could imbalance that, either way, would have done. And that's what Bielsa was saying in his press conference. He was saying, I tried to unbalance. I hoped that Roberts would unbalance the game in our favour, but it went the other way. And if the whole crowd are having that same sense of like, oh no, here we go again, we're not going to win now, for whatever reason, surely the players are as well. And it's such a psychological game, football. It's such a team game. And if you think that every time that you pass to a player, he's just going to give it away or not do anything with it, and then you've got to be running back. Every time he gives it away, they're on the counter attack, and you've got to be running 50 metres back the other way again.
There's definitely there's a couple of runs made where he had his arms out pointing to where he wanted to put, and people just don't look to even find him anymore.
No, yeah,
and that's a lack of faith. And I think that you just said it there, Donny, that when has he ever come on and turned the game around? Ever? Never. You can't keep doing it. It's we said definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. There's definitely, that's for me one of Bielsa's few frailties. The faith and trust he puts in players who are clearly not good enough. That's not Tyler's fault. I think you're right. I think he's a mid-championship standard at the moment. He'd probably do okay in that league, but he's definitely not a player that's going to win you a game in the last 10, 15 minutes. He's never done that. He's certainly not a starter for me, and he certainly don't get in ahead of Joffrey, who, when he did come on, first time he got the ball, takes it between two players, clever feet, strong. It's just ridiculous. What are they watching? And then you've got Kinnear, rubbing salt into the wound, saying, "Oh, well, we're not bringing players in when we've got better youngsters. We'll play them then and stop bringing him on." Because nobody wants it. The fans don't. The one thing I always say about fans is, right, most of those guys, you guys probably more than me, particularly you, Barney, and others, you go every week, you see things, you know what works and what doesn't. You have got an opinion, all right. Bielsa's ultimately the driving force, and others behind him and his team. But fans know stuff. Not these ones on Twitter, not ones who watch from the armchair, watch Match of the Day, not ones that turn up, whatever, once a year. But when you watch week in, week out, you see stuff, you know how that pitch works, you know where the gaps are, you know what other teams come and do. So give people a bit of credit by saying, look, we do know we can spot a footballer a mile off. He should not be getting on before Joffrey. If he's on the bench because we're short of numbers, fine. But don't bring him on as a striker instead of Gellard.
Yeah, and the thing is, why doesn't he go into the under-23s and try and get a bit of confidence?
Exactly. Or go on loan and get him confident again. Like Beckford did, came back brilliant,
Yeah, exactly.
The thing about the game I want to say really quickly was the reason we didn't win, didn't go up, we should have been 2 or 3 up in the first 20 minutes. You could kind of see what was going to happen. The longer the game went on and we didn't score, you could see what was going to happen.
Yeah.
They were playing for that. Newcastle fans won't care one bit that the shit housed their way to it, and they were wasting time from minute 3. The decision making was really poor. We were not clinical enough, and at times we're naive. There's Wolves did it, Watford did it to a point, Everton did it. They were wasting time from the 3rd minute, taking half an hour to get a goal kick taken. Why we haven't got ball boys back in the thing? Speed, I know they don't speed things up, but retrieving the ball and putting it back on the pitch. Take some action. Stop being naive. Stop sleepwalking through the season. There's things that I think need to be done because there's 3 or 4 teams who've come and done that. Wolves paid the price for it, the time wasting the extra time. Eventually got the penalty, which Joffrey won and scored and equalised. But we can't keep having teams going along the road with that same game plan and getting away with it. We've got to find a way to break people down. What we did on Saturday was appalling. We just got worse and worse. We're throwing balls into the box at, Dan James, players who aren't going to win headers in the box. And the passing, the radar, Rafinha's radar talks about the other week, weren't quite on it, so we were missing passes, things going across the box, nobody on the end of it.
Oh. So I mean, Click was in such good positions 3 or 4 times, arriving late into the box. You could see how frustrated he was when he came off.
Yeah,
he had no right to be substituted because he was one of our best players on the pitch trying to make something happen.
Yeah, it's a bit, substitutions at the minute are not good, are they?
I think it's one of the things, again, we've said it since Bielsa's been here. Sometimes he overthinks something. And when he overthinks something, the whole team are thinking, what the fuck are we meant to do here? Because they're confused. And if they're trying to play the game when there's certain substitutions coming on where you think, hang on a minute, he was actually playing the game properly how we were thinking we should be playing. And then you bring another player on who... There's been times where I've actually see a player come on where you think it's an odd substitution. The actual player looks and says, "Where am I meant to be then?" And that's quite worrying when a player comes on not knowing where he's meant to be or telling another player, "I think you should be there," or "You should be there." So we said before that some games, the game management from Bielsa has been brilliant sometimes, and when he brings on a substitution, it changes the whole game. And then there's sometimes where the whole system looks disjointed and forced, not fluid, what we used to fluid football, where playing those little triangles, it's just not working. But Phil Hay put an article out today about not wanting a number 9. And I can understand why we don't want a number 9 at the moment. The way James plays the number 9 role is exactly what Bamford does, the pressing from the front. But Bamford is so clever in bringing the midfield into play and running those little pockets. And then the defenders don't know where Bamford is. And then before you know it, we've got 2 or 3 wingers overloading. And then that's where we find the spaces. And we just do not have that striker that can do that. And I think that's why he's trying to get James to do that, because James has the pace to do it. And the way he presses the goalkeeper in the defence is really good.
Yeah, he's got the stamina as well. But the thing is that he doesn't have that essential quality in a striker, which apparently Bielsa doesn't seem to think is necessary, which is scoring goals.
Call me old-fashioned. Call me a traditionalist. I like my number 9 to be really good at finishing. Okay, no, it's honestly, it's got to the point where it's starting to, I think I'm probably going to stop watching football, because get a number 9 who does fuck all if you want. Lee Chapman, barely control the ball. Minute that comes in the box, they come alive. Robbie Fowler, whoever. They find the net 9 times out of 10. And Bamford's not that prolific, I don't think. But I'll tell you what, we're struggling at the minute if we're not going to get somebody up front who can find the net. And I think you've got to, particularly in what Lyle Kinnear's saying, it's not my opinion. He's telling us we can't be bringing players in at 20, 30 mil when we've got better players here in the youth to play them then. Bates should have started on Saturday. Never mind mixing Rodrigo back again in a position that's never worked for him. It's that same thing of that perseverance with things that aren't working. If you've got faith in your youth, if Bates good enough, if Gelhart's good enough, if Held warming up at half time when everybody else is inside, straight away at half time I'm thinking Dallas is injured, you're going to bring Held on at left back. He didn't even go on. It's like, what are you doing? What's going on here? It's stuff that just drives you mad, and it is frustrating, but you can't be like taking it out on people on Twitter and arguing with each other and getting frustrated. I mean, listen, Rodrigo walks off the pitch on Saturday, straight down the tunnel, not happy at all, really pissed off. Click walked off, kicked his jacket all over the place, wasn't happy. You're starting to see the signs of pressure. You know what you're talking about with Bielsa when he makes poor decisions, overthink it. I'm going to call it now. That's pressure. He wants to win for Leeds fans. He wants us to start climbing up the table. And we're not doing it, and we lost to a poor team, a team who came with one plan, which was get it to Saint-Maximin, hit them on the break, try not to give an early goal away, stay in the game, and let's waste as much time and slow the momentum and take the sting out of the game, take that chaos out of the game that people don't like and can't live with when Leeds start.
I do think Bielsa falls into that category of being so smart that he outsmarts himself.
Yeah.
Which is what you're talking about, Ewan, like overthinking. I remember this story about him with Batistuta. He was sort of saying to his assistant, "Oh, yeah, I think he's too fat. I don't think he's gonna make it," kind of thing. And his assistant was there saying, "No, Marcelo, I think there's really something in this player. Like maybe just give him a chance." Sort of thing. I think we do miss Diego Flores and Carlos Corberan. I think they've both gone on to do fairly well with other clubs, and I think that they were in his ear maybe a little bit, talking a bit of like bringing him back down to earth, I guess, like just saying this simple obvious things. Maybe he just needs that sometimes, like it's not working with Roberts. Rodrigo's not playing great in the number 10 role. Why don't we try him as a striker? He was doing okay for Spain in that role.
He got pelters on Saturday, and I've got to say, as much as he's got a big price tag and everything else, I think it's uncalled for, because I thought he did some better things. His vision's great. He runs behind the lines. He makes good runs. His touch is good. I sometimes think the people around him aren't clever enough. He is a very clever footballer. And there was a few times when he made runs behind the lines and he got the ball, and that ball he put the outside of his right boot to Rafinha. Everybody sort of busts a nut over Rafinha and has a big, he makes a lot of bad decisions and doesn't always do what you'd expect. He got the ball in 3 or 4 times in the right hand side in space. That early doors chance that he got, where you think, drive into the box and have a shot, and he tries to look for a pass inside. And everybody's guilty of, every footballer makes bad decisions, but the sort of inconsistency of the week before, where we seem to get every decision just about right, and then last week where we got very few right. I said to you on the last podcast, it's all or nothing with Leeds. We're either really good or very poor. It's like this, it's frustrating, really frustrating. I understand why people are frustrated, but got to stick together, guys. You know what I mean? You don't achieve anything by all the division and criticising everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Stick together. Rodrigo and Click, those frustrations that you were talking about, they don't like losing, these players, and it's understandable because they're good enough to win. Adam Long, classic Llorente manhandling foul tackle there. To be fair to him, he timed his foul perfectly out of the box. Sometimes you're told to just bring him down rather than give the goal away. Unfortunately, they got a goal from the free kick. 8-ball Alec, Robert's best bits always seem to be when he tracks back and he cuts out the ball or sticks in a tackle. He doesn't do it often, but when he does, he seems to do it right. Maybe he should be a CDM. Do you know what? He makes a lot of stupid, unnecessary fouls, just barging into people and getting nowhere near the ball. So I have to disagree with you there, Ali. Barney, you're an optimistic chap. You believe that we're going to finish in the top 10. You
I
believe
still do.
that we're not in trouble at all, and we've got enough quality to stay up.
I think we've got enough quality, and I think with this team and with Bielsa, we will win games where you wouldn't expect we're going to win games. We beat West Ham. We never thought we'd beat West Ham. When we turn up on our day, even with a side absolutely decimated by injuries, we know every single of those players, if they play the system how it should be played, we will be okay. We're actually closer to top 10 than we are to the bottom 3. We've got some games in hand. Is it 1 or 2 games in hand as well? If you look at some of the teams round about where they are, would you expect where Leicester are at the moment? No, you wouldn't. There's other teams that should be doing better than they should be at the moment as well. And I think that the way the league is at the moment, we are fighting to get into. The league is always separated into 2 or 3 leagues. It's you're probably your top 4. That's it. See you later. They're always going to be the top 4. There's those ones trying to fight to get into into Europe, the 5th and 5th and 6th. Then there's that little group where they want to get into the top 10. And I still do believe that we are one of those teams that will get into that top 10. Because we've seen before, we've been under pressures before in the Championship. Then all of a sudden we'll go on 1 or 2. We'll go on the 2-game run, 3-game run, and I still believe with this team that we will be okay. We will be okay, and sometimes football, you should just enjoy it. it's meant to be enjoyable. It's meant to be a pastime. It's going to football is forgetting about real life and stuff, and we should be enjoying ourselves rather than stressing every 5 minutes. It gets quite tiring, to be honest.
You're a revolutionary, Barney. Enjoy football. What are you on about?
Not there to be enjoyed. It's disparate. It makes us despair, and you're supposed to fall out of love with a game like I do regularly. But no, it's a great attitude to have, Barney, and I think I admire you for it. I have obviously a slightly darker view on football. I think you're right. I think that people, if you've got a life outside of football, and I've always said this, my life does not revolve around Leeds United and football. If people put all of my weekend is made by whether Leeds win or lose. Everything is reliant on whether Leeds win. My life isn't like that. So as much as I might be disappointed, I came away from the game. I did some stuff that I enjoyed, and I kind of forgotten about it by the next day. And then went to watch one of my lads play in a game that they should have won. They got beat, so I was pissed off again by. So, football really spoiled my weekend last week.
Nora says they really need to start giving yellows for time wasting. Yes.
100%. Listen, 5 minutes of injury time at the end of that second half is a joke, by the way.
Yeah. Oh,
joke. God. And if he'd have booked Dubravka, the 13th time that he'd wasted time in unnecessarily, it would have happened, but he didn't book him. It's just a joke, man. It's such a waste. I mean, you want it to be a quick moving, an entertaining game football. And there's teams coming and doing that. That's got to be stamped out. It's a proper illness, man.
Diving as well.
Yeah, a lot of diving. Maximan did it a few times. At least one thing about Leeds is we've got integrity. We don't tend to hound the ref. We don't go down unnecessarily.
Well, the one time we did, we got fined for it.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you can't win. Can't win, can you?
No, mate, exactly. One of the few teams who don't do it, and we get a fine for it. With the first time that it's construed that we've done something slightly wrong. I mean, they love it, don't they?
I mean, they say that we're paranoid. Phil Hay put out an article the other day, or retweeted one, about fans are just paranoid. Referees have a bad day, and they're not just out to get your club. Come on. We've been called Dirty Leeds for 50 years. Yeah. Or 60 years. That has to have an effect. Surely. That's ingrained into people. It's in the same way that, you've got institutionalized thinking. There's definitely some institutionalized thinking about Leeds. There was 117 negative chance against us.
Is that all?
from other clubs. That was collated in a survey by fanchance.co.uk.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the closest, the second most hated club is Liverpool on 50. That's
some going that, isn't it? We've really upset a lot of people, haven't we? You know what? Good. I'm surprised it's not more than 118, to be honest. But hey.
Oh dear. 8-ball alley. Balls into the box need to be hard and low, so pace makes the difference, not high balls where height makes the difference. Yep, and to a man preferably, and that was the big problem against Newcastle. Rafinha a few times got to the byline with some silky skills, brilliant, did really well, but then the final ball just play clicky, and he's right there in the open. I figure centre-backs are always big, so they will always win balls in the air against the likes of James and Harrison. Yeah, well, definitely James isn't going to win any headers anytime soon. Gelhardt was feeling his hamstring during the game. He's not fully fit. The breaking games will help us. Yeah, hopefully we'll get a few players back.
After that initial strong run that he did, we was right in front of the south stand where we were sat, and he was feeling his hamstring. So I think the people were giving Ayling grief about the catalogue of errors that led to their goal. Roberts giving the ball away twice, making poor decisions again in plenty of space. He did actually try to play in, I think it was Harrison had moved to the right by then, Barney, that second one that he gave him. He could have driven forward into that space himself. He could have played the ball first time instead of having a touch and then trying to almost nutmeg the player that was coming to close him down. He had so many options on. But, I think Ayling he got fouled just before that and was sort of, looked a bit gingerly on his knee or something was sort of, so he wasn't really chasing back full foul. Llorente rugby tackling somebody who'd lost control of the ball, going through to Melier. Melier for the thing, you can't just blame Roberts for that. There was a catalogue. I mean, Melier should have done better. But the thing about Llorente's tackle was he didn't need to make it. The kid had lost the ball. It was going straight through to Melier, and he just, all unnecessary. Really unnecessary.
When you lose 1-0, you're going to focus on that one goal,
that
isn't
one
it?
goal, that's all they needed.
The thing is that we're always going to concede a lot of goals as long as we are managed by Marcelo Bielsa. That's just the way it goes, because we defend the big open spaces. In other words, teams will set up to defend against us and hit us on the counter. So they've got all of this space to work with, right? Because we've got possession, we're possession based, so we're pushing into their half of the pitch, and that leaves these massive open spaces to be exploited. So good teams in the Championship, they tried to play possession based football, and we just beat them. Good teams in the Premier League can absolutely destroy us. And even the half decent ones and even the shit ones at the bottom can sort of have still got a few good players. Cornet, Sam Maximin.
Yeah, he's good footballer. We were absolutely scared shitless of him. Every time he got a ball on the edge of the box, nobody wanted to commit or sort of dive in at him, because he's a very clever footballer. And to be fair to Newcastle, listen, nobody's shit in that league. People could say what they want, or they were poor. They're not a bad football side. Shelby's a clever footballer. He's not the most popular, but they defended pretty well. They didn't really give us that many break-up chances, last-minute blocks. Committed. You've got to think as well. We were singing our own praises the other week at West Ham. We did really well because we had all this disruption with players getting injured and going off. They lost half of the defence and lost the centre midfielder. Joe Linton went off, Lascelles went off, and Dumet went off, and they still managed to eke a win out of it. So you've got to give people credit as well. That's where it's all about Leeds thing annoys me a little bit, because the other team want to come and get something, whether they do it through ill-gotten gains or dark arts, if you want to call it, is irrelevant. Newcastle fans won't care. They managed to sneak a 1-0 win. If it keeps them up, they'll be delighted. We've got to be a little bit more nasty and a little bit more clinical and a bit more sort of win at all costs. Sometimes I think it's all a bit pedestrian at times. All a bit kind of we'll get what we deserve, and hopefully we'll get a win, and hopefully it'll balance itself out over the season. And bollocks to that. I want to see us doing things that are going to make sure that we frustrate people and get the results that we need to be safe, and then we can relax and enjoy the season, Barney, can't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we need to score goals is kind of what I was getting at. We're always going to concede, so we need to start scoring. And if you lose 1-0, well, then you're only ever going to be able to draw 0-0 without scoring. So we need some more goals in us. Basically, that's been the problem as far as I can see it. Barney, you have to go, don't you? Very soon.
Yeah, I think one of the frustrations for me is we've only seen a handful of games this season where we've competed the full 90 minutes. Again on Saturday, it was first 45 minutes what we used to, proper Bielsa ball, attacking, taking risks. The opposition couldn't keep up with our intensity, and all of a sudden, within the first 10 minutes of the second half, you just think this looks like chaos here. Well, what's happened? And that's the real frustration from this season, and that's the reason why I do think that we will see some results where we think we're not going to get a result, because we always know we're going to get that 90 minutes from that team, and we saw that against West Ham. We've seen that against other teams as well, and I think we just need to have a bit of perspective about this season. It's another shit show with COVID, the injury crisis across the whole league and within the football league as well is a shit show as well. And I don't think it's just us that are struggling with injuries. If you look at Everton, they're struggling with injuries, but they've got no head of science there at the moment. So basically, it's probably a load of Everton players injured trying to figure out how to do the first aid training. So I just think the whole thing this season, we just need to look outside the Leeds bubble and understand that other teams are struggling. Their recruitment is always not going to be the best. Look at Chelsea with their team that they've got. They should be blowing this league out the water, but they're so far behind Man City. It's unbelievable. Man City don't have a number 9, but they're just taking the piss out of this league. So I just think we just need to understand where we are as a club. Second season in the Premier League, and think about the whole picture, not just about one particular moment, one particular transfer window. Look at the whole thing.
Yep. Do you have to go, Barnes?
I do. I'm going to go make pizza now. I know it's very late, but
Do you want to stick around, or should we sign off?
No, I'm good. I'm hanging around for a bit.
Stick around for a bit then. All right, Barney.
cheers. Speak to you later. Bye.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, I think hopefully we get a third season. I think that's the worry for fans, isn't it? Is that it's all right saying it's only the second season, but
Is it better like that?
yeah, that's cool. We need to get a third season, don't we?
That money would be nice. That extra 100 mil, and then the 60 mil that we get for Rafinha. What's this? So I'm just looking at the latest. I'm just trying to see if we've signed a player yet. It'd be nice to sign a player live on the stream. Nottingham Forest sensation Brennan Johnson. So that's who we're looking at the moment. Apparently he's the backup when we don't get Aaronson, because they won't sell him because they're in the Champions League last 16 or whatever it is.
Yeah, it seems weird to go after a player, just that one player all the time. That's really frustrating, I think. Rather than having went for Lewis O'Brien in the summer. I don't know what's happening with him now, but he's kind of fallen off the radar. And we're after this Forest guy, and then just mentioned somebody else.
John Swift, Reading.
Swift's been mentioned, but like you say, that's the problem.
Derby are having a flash sale, aren't they?
Well, I like they've got a young lad, Irish kid, captain Luke Knight, I think he's called. Who I really like. Not much of him, but if he's captain in a team like that, who was 21-point deduction, who was still fighting to stay up and winning games and competing, then probably got something about him. I know we could do with a bit of resilience in there.
Yep. Ali, we play with 3 kids and beat West Ham. We bring in a couple of experienced players and we lose to a crap team. People put too much faith in experience.
Good.
And the signings, of course, Rodrigo is a good example of maybe a signing that hasn't really worked out so well. Nora's saying something a bit kinky here. There is something beautiful about a young, visibly excited and motivated player coming on.
Really? I'll leave that to you, Nora.
Very nice, Nora.
Yeah, cheers for that. Are we talking football again still?
Bandy says, long live Ilan Meslier. Yeah, that's the thing that I wanted to say, is that for me, I'd be pushing out all the stops to get a backup goalkeeper from what I've seen of Klaassen. And you've got to remember that under 23s aren't having a very good season at all. I think he conceded 4 or 5 the other day to Blackburn under 23s. I mean, I know it's a team game, but surely if Meslier gets injured, I think that spells big trouble.
In big trouble. I mean, I watched under 23s a couple of times this season, went to the games to watch, and he doesn't feel any confidence at all. At least in the Arsenal game where we lost 5-2, he was probably to blame for 3 of the goals. A significant part in 3 of the goals going in. So not great for me. It's all right having faith in youth, but you've got to have some pretty talented youth to be able to do that. And he's definitely not one out. He's not ready for the first team. No chance.
The Andy Bentley has thrown the gauntlet down at us. I thought I turned on Steve Bruce era NUTV for a minute, Newcastle United TV. Let's not destroy our own. They're struggling with enough right now.
Why is that?
I mean, yeah, Barney's only just gone. Just minutes ago he was here, giving the positivity.
The positivity's left the room. No, it's not about destroying. It's about being honest. And I was at the game and I saw what I saw, and it's not about celebrating Newcastle. It's not about digging out anybody at Leeds necessarily, but they're the facts.
Yeah, I mean, we played brilliantly against West Ham. To be fair, we've played brilliantly for the first 3 seasons, really. It's only we struggled a bit last season, but it's only this season, this campaign, that we've really started to struggle, and it's probably largely due to having 12 injuries. You know, you can see the stats without Phillips, and it's not pretty reading. You know, when we've got Phillips in the team, is it like 70% win ratio or something like that? And when he's not in, it's something like 15%. So,
yeah, missing massively, absolutely. And then when you add, compound that by, centre halves being missing, which is important part, your captain, a left full back that's never been fit all season. We've only just got Ayling back, who I think is a key player most of the time for Leeds. I know he's not been having the best of times recently, and then no Bamford. I mean, pretty much the way we play, and that's been fairly evident, relies on Bamford, doesn't it? He brings players in, how he holds the ball up, how he closes down, how he can score remarkable goals, but also he's there to finish off some of the more simple opportunities we create. There's a lot of big misses going on. You can't underestimate that. I just think that you can't keep going on about it when you've got a really small squad, threadbare squad. And that's how Bielsa wants it. It's just like I say, you can't have both. You can't have all the genius and brilliance of Bielsa. And we talked about, the reason Man City are running away with the league without a striker and Chelsea can't get close to them is because Man City have got an identity that they've built up over many years, a culture, a kind of ethos, a way of playing, which doesn't change whether they win, lose or draw the game before. So we've got to sort of either stick with it, which is Bielsa's mentality, of course, or you twist and you end up getting rid of the manager, bringing somebody else in, and we start all over again, which I don't think is the answer.
Yeah, and I do think he's got a little bit of a problem, because if you look at somebody like James, you can see how well he works, especially like off the ball. He's so good at switching the momentum of the game. But by that I mean, if we lose the ball trying to do something fancy, he'll run back all the way back to our own penalty box and win it. And he's a little lad, but he doesn't half go in hard, and that picks all the other players up as well. So he's got loads and loads of qualities. He's not bad on the ball either, He's
absolutely brilliant off the ball. He's just really shit on it.
He's not Rafinha, and he's not a striker. He's not. You can see he's not confident with his shots in the penalty area. That they need to be. If you think about somebody like Alan Smith, Ian Wright, Alan Shearer, anybody like that, Viduka, Becchio, Beckford, anybody who's an actual striker, that'd be meat and bread, wouldn't it? It'd be meat pie with gravy. You'd be tucking straight into those chances.
He did something in the second half on Saturday where he kind of stepped inside 2 people, got in the box. He thought, right, great, drive at people now and get a penalty. Or, people were panicking, a bit like when Sam Maxman gets the ball when he was getting close to the area. And he hit that ball across the box, which there was nobody there to put it in. It ran right across the 6-yard box and out. And you think, all right, maybe somebody should have been at the end of it, but you should have been shooting there, not looking at cross it along the fucking 6-yard box.
I can tell you, having played as a striker all my life, even as a little kid in the backyard, there is no way I'd be passing that. You might be free at the back post when they're up in goal. I'd be head down. I'd be shooting.
Well, even if there is somebody there, you whack it, you hit it, and the keeper parried it. They score anyway. Percentage of the game, innit? You know what I mean? Plus, if you're a striker, you're greedy, aren't you? That's how you score so many goals. Ian Wright wouldn't have squared that. Viduka wouldn't have squared that. He'd have smashed it.
No chance. Absolutely no chance. Yeah, so I mean, I think he's a great winger. But then you've got the problem. Bielsa's got the problem of you've got to drop Harrison or Rafinha. You can't drop Rafinha. He's been the one player that's sort of been pulling us along going forward for most of the season. And can you drop Harrison? He just scored a hat-trick. So it is difficult. He's got to try and fit him in somewhere. I do agree.
I think there's a danger in trying to squeeze everybody in, though. I think you've got
Yeah.
The whole point about having a squad is that there is going to be players who are going to lose form. Probably Harrison has been guilty of that.
Yeah.
And has been dropped out or had to earn his way back in. I do think that at some point you've got to make that decision and say, look, who is the first 11 that you want to pick? Of course, decimated by injuries doesn't help because you haven't got a first 11 that we would normally pick. You've got to make that decision. Try to squeeze people. It's a bit like the England team, isn't it? When Gerrard and Lampard and Beckham and all that, they sort of didn't know what the best 11 was, and they tried to play all the superstars in one team by playing people out of position, and it don't work. It never works.
Yeah. Come on to that point in a second. We just had a comment that caught. Can we not play with two strikers and give defences more to worry about? I don't think we've got two strikers.
But he got one.
And he's 19.
Yeah.
I'd love that, Bandy. I'd love it. I wanted to see Bamford and Roof. I wanted to see Bamford and Nketiah giving a go. I'd love two strikers. I thought Viduka and Smith worked so well together. Viduka, you'd boot the ball up to Viduka. Classic target man. Oh, I'm getting an echo. Oh, now it's gone. And Smith would be running him behind. I'd love that. Let's have a look here. What were we going to say? Right. Square pegs in round holes. Speciality. Players specialise in their positions, and that's the thing that I fundamentally disagree with Bielsa on. I don't believe that every single player is adaptable to 2 or 3 different positions. I believe that you specialise in one, and especially when you get to the elite level of the Premier League, and you are very, very good in that one specific position, and you know your job inside out. Clicky, brilliant number 8. Phillips, probably England's best defensive midfielder. And then you had Pablo Hernandez as one of the best number 10s I've seen in my life. And that midfield 3 was so good. Run the championship ragged.
Like Dallas is probably the one where you can move a utility player. Right. We've said it before, haven't we? You can have one that maybe can move about and can play just about anywhere. You can't have 5 or 6. It's ridiculous. It's so disjointed at times because they're constantly moving people around. And I'm not convinced that Koch, where he's playing again now, so now you've got the argument about is it Koch and Llorente, is it Struijk and Llorente, who's the best centre out when the Cooper comes back? Are we going to play Struijk in midfield? That's what a squad's for, having 2 players in every position. And picking the best, and sometimes you lose out, and then you've got a point to prove, and you have to earn your way back into the team. That's good for the healthy aspect of the team. It's also good for players who are in the team because they know they've got a good player waiting to get in if they fuck up. I don't agree with a lot of that. Can't agree with a lot of it.
Okay. I'm getting massive echo.
Yeah, I've sort of had the whole program.
Have you?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
It's so weird when it happens, because then you hear yourself and then it's weird.
I've got loads of voices in my head, mate. I'm used to it.
Is Dan James a striker? Is Tyler a striker? Let them play together, or with Gelhardt, indeed anybody. Personally, I think the Tyler Roberts experiment is over for me. I'd like to see him go at least into the under-23s, if not on loan somewhere, and get some confidence back. Dan James, definitely not a striker. So Gelhardt it is. Gelhardt is.
100%.
I think Roberts has been given a chance, hasn't he? Chance after chance. Can we do that for Joffy now?
Yeah, it's definitely not a striker with Roberts, believe me. No chance. Not
No.
for the panics. No.
Right then, just a few more comments and then we'll get going. I think because I'm starting to run out of energy. Nora says, "I want to get a goalie shirt now, just so I can get Melier on the back. What a good feeling that he's in goal. Yeah, long may it remain, really, because he's kept us up. I mean, that save from Shelvey was absolutely incredible. You couldn't hit a football sweeter than Shelvey did. It's just, you know, when you hit it or when it comes off the laces like that. Oh,
Yeah,
what a feeling!
Nice height for the goalie, though.
Yeah, it was, but it was coming in. It was coming in with some heat.
Yeah, he clipped it, didn't he? But yeah, we were right behind that in the south stand, and it was a good save. Yeah.
I think there was one at Villa Park last season, which was the best save I've seen. Oh, was it Sheffield United actually?
Sheffield United one from Lundstram, whatever, where he came in late on the 6-yard box. It was a terrific save. But he has made a lot of amazing saves. He's got a rick in him, but you forget how young he is. He's 21.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, that save reminded me of Nigel Martin, dare I say it.
What would he be worth these days?
Oh, mate.
I'm not convinced
Bandy.
to be that good, though, to be honest. I can't see him as a footballing goalkeeper, really. But
Bandy says, long live Roberts. There you go.
I don't want him dead. I just don't want him playing football for Leeds anymore.
Sean Rooney, Bielsa has his best team in mind. It's just that he has never been able to field them this season. Introducing youngsters is tricky, as a drop in form can destroy some youngsters' confidence.
Young footballers, they're not suddenly picked from the school playground. They've been through that mill of having to prove themselves, getting dropped. My lads in a kind of academy system, and it's brutal, man. They're used to having a confidence, not having to bounce back. You've got to be resilient and determined. It's the old thing about, people go, Roberts is only 22, or so-and-so's only 19. Michael Owen was only 17 when he scored that goal in the World Cup. We've had plenty of Rooney. If you're good enough, you're old enough. Milner, good enough, you're old enough. Simple as. If you never get the opportunity to prove it at the top level, we're never going to know, are we?
Yep, indeed. Right here. 17 games to go. There's 15 days until the next one.
It's a long time.
Yeah. So thank God we got a bit of time off. Jesus, when that echo comes in, it's fucking horrific.
Just got to then, yeah.
It's like a horror show.
It is that.
It's terrible. Right here, I'm all out of energy. Been awake since very early this morning.
It's just you've got it sucked out of you by the negativity. It's like we're trying to be positive. Came on with all good intentions, but I think starting by singing the Smiths didn't help. the melancholy was creeping in already.
He was a very melancholic character, wasn't he? I mean, all those songs, you just think, can you just cheer up a bit?
Yeah, don't do toe tappers, does it? To be fair, no floor fillers.
To die by your side. Just give it a rest, buddy.
Heavenly way to die. Oh, come on, mate.
Yeah, it's only Wednesday.
You don't do any Kylie covers.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much for joining us. If you're on Facebook, give us a like, would you? And hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers.
Hence.
Right. Oh dear.
Final thoughts this week. I haven't got any.
Yeah. Final thoughts. My final thoughts are sign a backup goalkeeper.
A striker. You're going to start where we're going to leave off where we started. Sign some bloody players. Full circle in an hour.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we get a few players back, we won't need to sign anybody because those players that we've got are good enough. People like Clicky, they just need to run in a team. Stop subbing them off. Sorry, Marcelo. But just leave him on. Just let him play 90 minutes a few times. Get some consistency into the lineup. Stop tinkering with it all the time. Like, I love you, Marcelo, but please, like, don't bring Roberts on as a default substitute. It's not working. There's been so many opportunities to see that it doesn't work. Please just stop doing it. He's not listening to this, is he? Just stop talking to him. Why have I just started talking to Marcelo? This is an open letter.
Salud.
Salud, Mr. Senor Bielsa.
Bueno. Non bueno.
What else? I don't know. Aaronson looks good on YouTube. I'll have a bit of that.
Not watching it. It's like, not interested.
Yeah, no. I'd stop bidding now. Stop bidding. They don't want to sign him. You're only gonna make it harder for yourselves in the summer. John Swift, he looks good. Ruin Derby. Raid Derby. Get that lad from Derby. Even if it's just for the lols.
Yeah, for the lols, yeah. Indeed.
But the main thing is a backup goalkeeper, because if Meslier gets injured, then I would seriously doubt our ability to score enough goals.
Yeah, indeed.
No offense to Klaassen. Ewan, final thoughts?
Oh God, I've literally just got over football by about Monday, and now I'm feeling like I did on Saturday evening, to be honest.
Imagine if we'd won. This would be so different if we'd won. We'd be sitting here going, 9 points from 3.
I know, that's what you need. We're in 10th. We're in 11th before the break. Wow, freaking. Just that's it's the hope that kills you. You look up you start to look up the league, don't you, and think, we've got 2 games in hand. If we win that game, we're in 10th.
Bloody fickle football fans, eh?
Exactly. Maybe Barney was right after all. We are going to finish in Europe, but listen, it's like that, the old thing about the imposter. Treat them both as the same imposter, victory and defeat. And
Rudyard.
Yeah, got to keep going, and it does piss you off, because it is the bit of the hope that gets you. My final thoughts are: listen, there's nothing a good curry and a couple of beers can't sort out. That's what I did on Saturday night. I went for a curry. I brought curry home for my family, and I met my mate in the book pub for a couple of bevies, and I felt great.
A booner and a bevy.
Yeah, considering all my bloody family are Geordies, I was, I had to see my dad the next day, and my mum, and everybody else, and it was like, fucking hell. They were very magnanimous in victory, and didn't talk about it too much, which was good.
Why, aye, man. Fair enough. Well, yeah. Okay, we'll see you very soon.
Pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you very much for tuning in and listening in wherever you are, and tell a friend about us. That'd be great. Normally we're cheerier.
A little bit.
Yeah. Sign some players. Come on, Osa. Get in there, son. Get in there, my son.
Get some better cocaine and get another 8 phones out. Let's get some deals done, boy.
Well done, boys, says Bandy. Have a great one, everyone, says Nora. Great job, guys, says Ali. You should behave yourself of an evening. Cheers, lads, and Nora. Aaron Ramsdale, only one that comes close to Meslier, says Bandy. Thanks, everybody. On and on and on. Come on, Leeds.